What should go in your daily practice? Okay, my daily essentials, it needed to have this in every single practice that I did. We were going to have player development. Sometimes it was 15 minutes, sometimes it might be 30. If we felt like we needed to do some individual with guards and posts, some two-man game with guards and posts together, we felt like we needed some extra shooting. Um, but you've got to have individual player development in every single practice. If not, your players are going to be the same player in February that they were in November. You have to put opportunities for your team to learn leadership. And you can find many drills, you can find many leadership activities where your leaders are getting the opportunity to lead, your younger players are getting the opportunity to speak up. I always had at least one drill every practice where coaches were told they couldn't say a word. And we would allow our team to struggle because we wanted them to have adversity. We wanted them to do the talking. At the end of the drill, we'd bring them together, we would talk about it, and then we'd give them a chance to run it again. I think that's an important piece. For kids to learn communication, leadership, learning to listen just as much as talk. I think those are important skills. Are you doing your culture every day in practice? Are you encouraging it? Are you putting in your practice? If you say you want accountability, are you holding your team accountable for what your focus was that day? Are you holding them accountable for your teamwork and talking, hustling, all the things that you say are important? Or is it just coach speak that you give them in the locker room and then you never hit it in practice with anything that you do? I think that's really important. Coach speak is not good for kids. They need to see you back it up with what your demands are. And then lastly, how are you teaching? What are your strategies? What are your method? I was a whole coach. I wanted to show you the whole thing. Then I wanted to break it down into parts so you could learn the intricacies and the different pieces of way to, if somebody defended something, that you could make a different decision. What was your different move? If they stopped your move, what was your counter move? What are all your counters? And then I wanted to put it back together whole. So that was the coach I was. However you coach is fine. Just know what your strategies are and make sure you're consistent with how you're trying to teach it. And then lastly, you need to have your system and strategies in place, and you need to make sure your kids are doing them with excellence. Don't let them get away with half doing it. If you say they got to run wide and touch the out of bounds at half court and they don't do it, don't let them get away with it. Hold them accountable to the excellence. If they have to talk on screens and you've got a player not doing it, don't let them get away with it. Make sure that they learn to do what you want with an excellent rating. And then the last piece that I believe in, I'm a huge competition coach. We kept score with almost everything, whether it was a drill where the team was running against the clock and trying to score points, or get off so many shots at a certain percentage. We charted those things and we kept up with those things, and we ran when we didn't meet those things. And I think that's important. You have to bring competition every day. You have to have competition as a team. You have to have competition as individuals. And then you have to have adversity. If you're not making your practice have adversity every day, how are you going to know how your team is going to handle it? So I think competition does that. So what does your practice design need to look like? What does your team needs? Does it need to be a balls to the walls practice? We need to go hard for 2 solid hours, or have we gone hard for 3 days and we have a big game and it's Thursday and we need to have basically a 5-on-0, run our stuff, and then have a good stretch recovery day? You decide what your team needs, communicate with your captains on their legs, pay attention to your teams and what they need. You can hold down your injuries if you do that. I believe in teaching what you're going to teach, then giving the opportunity for repetition and learning, and then competing against it. So if you're going to teach an offense, give them an opportunity, you teach it, They learn it, they run it 5-on-0, and they learn it, and now they got to compete against the defense to try to score. And I think that's an important factor for your team to learn to take those steps. Remember to focus and keep your focus, and it needs to be so loud that at the end of practice you could say, hey guys, what do you think we focused on today? And if 3/4 of your team can't answer that, you got to question how practice was structured. If your practice really hit on defending and blocking out and tagging up and stopping the basketball, and your team should be able to say, Coach, we really focused on defense today. We got better on defense. They should be able to tell you what the focus was. Here's another one I had to learn. Boy, early in my career, you've got to be adaptable in practice. I wanted them to get the drill right. So let's say I planned for 10 minutes for a drill and they weren't getting it right. I would stay on that drill for 20, 25 minutes and then blow the rest of my practice, and they'd be mad that I didn't get to stuff. And I would blame my players in my mind, not to them, but in my mind I did. When I matured and I understood, give them a goal, have them run the drill. If they don't meet the goal, have a consequence for not meeting the goal, and then move on to the next thing. Come back to that drill tomorrow, and let's see if they can win that drill. That allowed me to better get to all the things that I thought were important in my practice, and to stay on time, not go overtime, which always irritates parents if you let them out late, or irritates the team coming behind you if you share a gym. So it's just all the things of, respecting people that you're asking your kids to do. And you can do that by saying, okay, we didn't win this drill. Here's the consequence for not winning it. Push-ups, run, whatever you want it to be. And now we'll come back to it tomorrow, but we're moving on to the next piece. Plan what is important. And I always planned a little fun practice because there were things that we had to get to. And if there was some fluff in practice and we needed to skip it, no big deal. Skip it and move on. But I do think it's important to make sure you know going in what's important and you cannot skip it. And make sure your assistant coaches know so they hold your feet to the fire on what you need to do. Make sure you're always doing an after action review. Evaluate your practice. Sometimes you'll have time as a staff to talk afterwards. Sometimes you won't. People have other jobs to do and other places to go and go home to families. I would always have my assistant coaches send me an email or a text before they went to bed that night on what they thought went well in practice and what they thought didn't go well and what should be in tomorrow's practice. And that way they had a voice in practice. It wasn't just all me. And I think that's huge for buy-in for your staff. Okay, so practice design. You want it to have the competition, keep score, team against team, team against the clock, individuals 1-on-1, 3-on-3, 5-on-5, all different ways to compete. Have a winner and a loser. Kids need to know how to win. They need to know how to lose gracefully and not like losing. There needs to be a consequence for losing, and then move on to your next thing. How are you developing your leadership? Again, think about that. Are your players talking and communicating, or are you and your staff talking and communicating? The players should be doing just as much talking and practice as you are. And if they're not, you got to ask, are your practices aligned with that, or your requirements of your players? Use the clock. This is harder on the high school level if you don't have a manager that comes every day. I have an assistant coach who runs over and sets the clock real quick if need be. How are you transitioning? My kids always had to earn a water break, and then the clock would start on, and the water break was 30 seconds because now we're simulating a 30-second timeout. You better hustle, get the water, get back to the baseline. Might be a minute. But I think using the clock helps your players understand time, keep up with time, and urgency in getting things done. Make sure your assistant coaches have specific responsibilities and plan for them to teach daily something. I think that's important. You are developing the next generation of coaches. So I think it's important that they teach in your practice. And I also think it's important for them to have specific responsibilities. If you don't give them specifics and then you're mad that they didn't do something, that's on you. You have to be the best leader for your assistant coaches and allow them to shine in your practice also. So here's a sample plan that I used. See it. You can see I always had a warm-up time where we did our dynamic stretching, ball handling, and form shooting. This was a Saturday practice. When you see the time it starts and how long it went, it was a Saturday practice. Then we always had a running segment. I love disguised running. The kids are running. So you can see they ran for basically 20 minutes, but it was disguised running within drills. Win the drills, you win the drills. There's no punishment running. You don't win the drills. There was consequence running. And so you can see I tried to use it as a way. I never liked just putting kids on the line just for the sake of running. We did a lot of running in preseason to come in shape, and I felt like there were a lot of ways basketball-wise could do it without taking a bunch of time. And then our next segment was a tag up segment because I believed in it. I thought it was one of the most important things, that we did. And you can see this was early in the year. So now we're working on specific things. The one-on-one, the three-man with a leak out player, defending back screens, and how we're going to catch back up with our players, and then shell drill with the 5-on-5 tag up. And then now you saw they had to earn their water break. And during the water break was an opportunity to catch up on some time if we went overtime, or allow them to shoot some free throws while they were tired. Coming back out of the water break, great time to work on time and score. So now you've got one team coming out. They're working on a scenario. There's 10 seconds left. They're down one. They got to score or get fouled. The defense knows they have one foul to give. So now they're specifically working on a last second scenario, offense and defense. And I think that's a really important thing. If you don't put it into your daily practice, you're going to find out you get to that game and you go, crap, we didn't spend enough time on time and score. But if there's something in everyday practice, you're going to spend a lot of time on it. Then